Joe, you mentioned Kavanaugh's new op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. Kavanaugh looks to overcome the perception that he has after last week's hearing that he is too political. It's titled, "I am an independent, impartial judge." In it, Kavanaugh writes, "I was very emotional last Thursday, more so than I have ever been. I might have been too emotional at times. I know my tone was sharp and I said a few things I should not have said. I hope everyone can understand that I was there as a son, husband, and dad. I testified with 5 people foremost in my mind: my mom, my dad, my wife, and most of all, my daughters. Going forward," he writes, "you can count on me to be the same kind of judge and person I've been for my entire 28-year legal career. Hardworking, even-keeled, open-minded, independent, and dedicated to the Constitution and the public good." So, Joe, obviously he's doing a little mop-up work there. The other concern that he didn't quite address in this op-ed is that he sounded partisan, that he talked about effectively a Clinton conspiracy against him to take down his nomination.
And again, you could, if it were in real time, if he were just ticking off a list of things that he felt the left had done against him and their motivations, and just off the top of his head, and just thrown out there the Clinton conspiracy, that would be one thing. That would be troubling enough. But the fact that he wrote it himself, it reminds me of when Ross Perot went and spoke to the NAACP convention. He said, "I wrote this myself." And then he went on to keep talking about you people. And they were booing him and insulting him, and it didn't really help him that he wrote it himself. And it's the same thing as Brett Kavanaugh wrote it himself, tore up what others wrote for him. And that's where you had the Clinton conspiracy theories thrown in there. And here's a clip just for those who don't remember what happened 1 week ago.
Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Feinstein, members of the committee, thank you for allowing me to make my statement. I wrote it myself yesterday afternoon and evening. No one has seen a draft or it, except for one of my former law clerks. This is my statement. This whole 2-week effort has been a calculated and orchestrated political hit, fueled with apparent pent-up anger about President Trump and the 2016 election, fear that has been unfairly stoked about my judicial record, revenge on behalf of the Clintons, and millions of dollars in money from outside left-wing opposition groups. This is a circus, and as we all know, in the United States political system of the early 2000s, what goes around comes around.
Well, you know, Mika, that is, I mean, those are it doesn't matter where you stand, whether you're conservative or liberal, whether you support the judge or you don't support the judge. It's so problematic to think about somebody like that sitting on the Supreme Court, where there's never going to be a decision that he makes that isn't tainted by partisanship. And yes, the federal judges can be partisan. They do have their own beliefs and their own opinions. But my God, every federal judge I've ever known has certainly shown, I've been fortunate, I guess, a lot of dignity, and you can't get them talking about politics because they find it unbecoming.
Yeah, and it's he takes a lot of this personally. I think that op-ed was telling. If anybody's looking really close at this, Senator Joe Manchin, he says, "I know my tone was sharp and I might have said a few things that I shouldn't have said, and I hope everyone can understand." No, we don't understand that at all, actually. You're not sitting here defending your name. This is a job interview for the highest court in the land, and everyone is trying to understand whether or not you are fit for the job. So I don't think his highly emotional, raging reaction makes him guilty. We have no idea whether he's guilty or innocent of what he's accused of, but it does show something, Susan Del Percio, about his fitness. And I really hope Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, Jeff Flake, and Joe Manchin think about the display that he put forward and whether or not he's truly fit, let alone what he said about presidential pardons and whether or not certain people from certain backgrounds should have access to this country, and how he couldn't answer a lot of basic questions about the foundation of this democracy. Susan.
And especially look at how he handled the senators who asked him questions, especially Senator Klobuchar. He is a federal judge. He is used to high-stress situations. He was flippant and really disrespectful. Yes, he apologized for it after, but he should be better than that. He had been practicing for a week. He did the Fox News interview as prep work. That is inexcusable on top of the partisanship that we saw. What's also just really disturbing to me is seeing how President Trump spoke about Dr. Ford at the rally, and then seeing Senator Grassley and Majority Leader McConnell their behavior yesterday, as if the president gave them an okay to just kind of destroy any goodwill that they were trying to put as far as Dr. Ford went. And I think that alone, if forgetting even just using Kavanaugh's words and looking at the president, I don't think that Susan Collins or Lisa Murkowski or Senator Flake should reward this president with this nomination. He is now, President Trump seeks to always divide us. This nomination will further divide us.
I think about, Joe, leaders like Ronald Reagan and how they handled adversity, or John McCain when that woman at the rally said something very disparaging about Obama.
Right.
And, you know, there's a moment where you can really show what you're made of. Brett Kavanaugh had two opportunities, one in that hearing where he raged, defended himself, cried like a baby, and basically couldn't, said it was everyone else's fault but his own, what was going on.
Well,
and secondly, in this op-ed where he could have called out the president, he could have called out people who were mocking Christine Blasey Ford and said, don't mock her. Don't mock her. Leave her alone.
Well, you know, we have actually, first of all, you want to be really clear. If he is an innocent man, and so far, if you look at corroborating witnesses, doesn't appear that there's a corroborating witness.
No,
so let's give him the presumption of innocence just for this argument right here. I can understand him being extraordinarily emotional. I think many of us would be extraordinarily emotional if we were wrongly accused of those claims. But you have a decision to make. You can go out and rail against partisans. You can rail against the Democratic senators, and they certainly had a lot to be attacked for. You could rail against the partisanship, all the ads that run against you. But if you're going to do that, you know what? Be a politician, run for office. If you want to be a federal judge, you don't do that. You just don't. And people that are on Twitter saying, well, he was attacked and said, you know what?
Yeah.
Save it. Save it for politicians. I get it. It's a blood sport. But if you want to be a federal judge, if you want to be one of 9 people shaping the laws of this country and interpreting the Constitution, you have to rise above that. And we saw an example, Jane. This isn't pie in the sky thinking by Mika about how he should actually have defended Dr. Ford against Donald Trump's attacks and said, no, you know what, that's over the line. I didn't do what she said I did, but she's been hurt. My family's been hurt. You know what, that's over the line. You would have gained a lot of points by doing that. You know who did that? Neil Gorsuch. When Donald Trump was attacking federal judges and Gorsuch was up for a vote.
Great point.
He went out and he attacked Donald Trump for being disrespectful to federal judges. That's the sort of leadership that Kavanaugh could have shown, and at every turn, he never showed any leadership at all.
Yeah, that would have shown a certain generosity and grandness of spirit that we saw none of from Judge Kavanaugh. That op-ed is all me, and they made me do it. The dastardly liberals made me turned me into that creature that you saw yelling and frothing at that hearing. You know, to me, I don't think we should forget Dr. Ford in this whole equation. When Senator Heitkamp made her announcement yesterday that she's going to vote against Judge Kavanaugh, she said it was because she believed Dr. Ford, and you know, she did give hours worth of very credible evidence. Sworn testimony is evidence against Judge Kavanaugh, and you're right that that there have not been corroborating witnesses who can attest to her version of the account. But it was compelling, and she really she opened herself up to what has come at her, including from the president. And I don't think she did that with any ulterior motive. She did that because she thought it was important and because something happened to her that she thought the American people needed to know about.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.